Yes. Good morning to all of you. I think we have already lost a lot of time and we can no longer lose time further. I'm Pulani Pitso and I will be moderating or facilitating the first session, technically speaking, of today. And I think we should start without much ado. Yesterday, the focus, we know, it was more on inclusive economic growth and development, and a recap has been done in terms of that. When the day Steve started off, he said the theme for this research colloquium, it's centered around the triple challenges that are facing our country, which is poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And he made a very good statement by saying that before we even try to attempt to address those issues, it is of critical importance that we address the issue of the economic crisis that we are facing as a country, but also globally. And you know, we can never separate the issue of economic crisis with the issue of skills development, because our economic crisis puts pressure on the kind or the quality of skills that are developed, so that we are in a state where we are able to produce graduates who are responsive to our socio-economic challenges, but also graduates who are able to compete in the workforce. So today's focus is more on youth unemployment and skills development. So skills development, it is an area that also needs where targeted action is imperative. It is imperative because as we speak now, South Africa seems to be producing more graduates than what our economy can accommodate. Secondly, we also see that research, but even in our own, experiences where we are, there is a lack of synergy. There is a mismatch between the quantity of graduates that higher education institutions are producing vis-a-vis the quality of skills that are produced. And today, that is why the presentations that will be done are going to try to give us some of the solutions as to how we can realign the skills development area so that it's able to be responsive to our economic crisis. The first presentation in total, we're going to have 4 presentations by our colleagues. And the first presentation that we're going to get, just to lay the tone for this session, it will be from Dr. Benedict. And I just have a short profile of her. I just need to navigate it here. Yeah, so she will be presenting and giving us the first presentation there. And just quickly going through her profile, she will be presenting about enhancing graduate employability through entrepreneurship education. And Dr. Benedict is an academic and entrepreneur herself. She lectures in the Department of Business Management at the University of the Free State and the University of the Free State Business School. What is important is that she is also a co-founder and a CEO of a successful clothing and accessory business focusing on African prints and designs. And she has also received various awards through her small businesses, including 3rd place in the Free State Enterprise Job Creation Challenge in 2014, and academically, one of the awards, she has also won the Top Achiever Award, Teaching and Learning in the Faculty of Economic and Management Science. So that is, in short, the profile regarding Dr. Benedict, who will be giving us the first presentation of this session. And I want us to welcome her with an applause, a hand of applause. as she is ascending to the stage to take us through the topic enhancing graduate employability through entrepreneurship education. The platform is yours, Sine.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Pitso, Madam Program Director. Good morning again, colleagues. So, all esteemed colleagues, all other members of the provincial government, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all protocols observed. So it is my pleasure to actually stand before you to share with you part of my research for a project that I've been doing for the past 2 years now at the university. So I will be sharing with you how we can enhance graduate employability through entrepreneurship education. So I think most of the things which I want to say and which I will be unpacking this morning with us is I think everything has already been said. So I will probably just be repeating over and over again what has been said since yesterday and what we actually already know. So as a word of introduction, we do have a problem in the country. And that is the problem, or this is the problem. There is that problem of unemployment and poverty. But the thing is that this problem is not just unique to South Africa, it is actually a problem that is unique to all emerging economies, just that we seem to be at the bottom of it all. Everybody's faced with unemployment, everybody's faced with poverty. But for us, we seem to be on the side where our rates are actually very high. So we already know what Statistics South Africa says, like we already see on the screen, so I don't really have to repeat it. But we are the country with the highest Gini coefficient in the world at 0.67. So one of the most unequal countries in the world, where we have a situation where 1% of the population actually runs and owns over 50% of the wealth in the country. So this is something that we really have to think about. So what exactly is the problem? We face the challenge of unemployment and poverty. Stats tells us that 35.5% of people who are of working age between the ages of 15 to 64 years are unemployed. Youth unemployment also is one of the highest on the continent. And we have low economic growth that has actually been from 1.2 when I was making the slides, had to check again what it is, and it has been graded down to 0.3%. So what's the solution? United Nations, WEF, GEMS, even the government, everyone is telling us that entrepreneurship is the key. There has to be employment. We have to employ more people. But that unfortunately, like we have already heard, it's impossible for government and the private sector to actually absorb the available labor force. There are only so much people we can employ. Even in the government's departments, there are only so much people to employ. At the universities, in the private sector, there is just so many people we can employ. Then what happens to the rest of the people? And then there is this process of establishing, operating, and growing a new business. But the problem is that there is a gap. So and this gap is that having a degree does not guarantee employment. First, it was trying to get people into universities, trying to get more people to be employed, and therefore having the universities to increase the number of people that they accept. But now, graduating with a degree does not guarantee you a job. Graduate unemployment is also very high. And the other problem is we may tout that entrepreneurship is the way to go, but we have found from research that most South African adults are not engaging in entrepreneurial activities, and that we would rather prefer to be employed rather than take the risk to start a business, despite our intentions that we do view entrepreneurship as sharp. That's the way to go. Because I mean, who wants to take a risk and fail when actually you can be assured a salary at the end of the month? So that also is causing to be a problem. So what are the reasons? Why do we have these issues? The first one is the underperformance of the economy due to high unemployment rate. The second one is inadequate educational system, that our educational system does not prepare our young people adequately for realities of the labor market. And then the third one is that graduates do not have the skills that are needed for real world of work. So even when we graduate as students and people are graduates, but when they go for the interviews, I mean, some of our private sector are here, NetBank is here, but then they get back to us and say, but what are you guys teaching the students? How are you guys training them? They just don't have what we are looking for. And so that's why we are here also, my colleague and I think she would also be presenting on skills development to say, so first of all, we had to go back to the private sector to say, what is it that you want us to tell the students, or how do you want us to train the students? Because there's no need churning out this large group of people, and then they are not employable. So there has to be that synergy, that talk between academic, government, and as well as the private sector. So we need to close the gap. And one of the ways in which we realized, after speaking to government and the private sector to close the gap, is we have to review our curriculum because we're probably teaching it wrong. And for us as a traditional university, unfortunately, the mandate we have is a little bit too much on the theory side compared to, I think this is where CUT probably has an advantage over us and the TVET colleges, because they actually have a mandate that includes work integrated learning, not so much for the rest of us that just have to expound on theory. So we have to teach entrepreneurship at all school levels, and research has shown that there is a positive relationship between entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial attitudes. The more people learn about entrepreneurship, the more people would be, if I can use the word, conscientized to actually engage in entrepreneurial activities. So these were the research questions. What type of education would influence young people to engage in entrepreneurial activities? And what type of education would enhance the employability of graduates? So when we talk about graduate employability, what do we mean? Graduate employability is the ability of a student to find a job following graduation. That's basically what it means. And more specifically, it is the degree to which a student can use their skills and knowledge to find work. But in this case, we have changed what work means for our students. We said either work for yourself, in other words, employer of self, or you employ other people. Research has also shown that the higher degree a person has, the more opportunity that person has to actually set up a business that is viable and reliable. So the more educated a person is, there is a greater chance that that person is able to set up a business which will be viable and which can actually employ other people compared to someone who does not have a university degree. So we need to focus on our graduates because they are actually the future. They are more likely to start a business, not just a small micro business that is me, myself, and I, but a business that can grow and that can employ other people and help relieve the government. So unemployment rate is 35.3%. If a person does not have matric, that is 2023 stats, chances of not getting job is 48.3%. Matric, 40.7%. So in other words, this is a stats that looks at the number of unemployed youths. Out of that number, 35%, 48% didn't have matric, 40% had matric. Graduates that made up that 35.3% was only 2%. So there is, so the good news is, if you have a degree, you are more likely to get a job compared to someone who does not have a degree. And other tertiary education was 7.5%. So graduate unemployment rate is currently 10.6. We have 26 public universities in the country and 130 private institutions that, as of last year, produced 250,000 graduates. Now, where do these 250,000 graduates go to? Who absorbs them? Who employs them? And research has shown that 30% will not find a job. Of the 70% that will be employed, 70% of those will be employed in a job relevant to their field of study, but 27% of those will be employed in jobs that you just have to make a living. You may have studied sociology or psychology, but you just have to find any job just to make ends meet without necessarily actually using your skills or what you studied in university. Half of the latter, which is those, the 27% that get jobs that are not related to their studies, indicated that they were in jobs requiring lower skills than those they had acquired during their studies. For example, a graduate with an accounting degree, but you have to work as a cashier. Because I mean, after all, you learned something about money in school, so we've got a post as a cashier, but you can't use your BAc in accounting or your BCom in accounting. So you probably have to make do with 5,000 Rand or 6,000. But yet your parents paid a lot of money for you to go to school, and everybody was happy when you graduated, thinking you were going to come help everyone else back home. So these are the realities that we face. Then of the unemployed graduates, 80% are black, and only 19% are white. And more than 2/3 of the unemployed studied humanities. So these are the realities. If you study humanity, you're more likely to be unemployed. If you're black, there's 80% chance that within 3 to 5 years of finishing university, you will not be employed. So that's what research has. So graduate employability also shows that when we look at the provinces and you look at Career Junction and the jobs that are being advertised, only 1% of those jobs being advertised is within the Free State. The majority of the jobs advertised in Career Junction or on Career Junction, 54% are for placements and positions in Gauteng, 21% in the Western Cape, 9% in KwaZulu-Natal, 6% in the Eastern Cape, and 4% are international jobs, 2%, even Mpumalanga, 2%. Then we share 1% with Northern Cape always, Northwest and Limpopo, just 1% of the jobs. So is it that our economy is not growing? We don't have jobs available? And then when our students graduate from CUT, University of the Free State, or they come home, or even if you send them elsewhere and they've graduated, they come home, you are happy you've got children back at home. But when the jobs are available, then Gauteng. So they have to apply and they have to leave you again because there's nothing in the Free State. And you yourself, you're tired of probably feeding them at home, so you're happy at least now they've got something to do. But they have to leave home to go get a job and make a living. So that's the reality that we face. Why? Why do we have this problem? Mismatched workers and skills. Everybody has to get into university, so sometimes we just want to get into university for the sake of getting into university. But then enroll for qualifications with low employment prospects. We all have children. Well, I still have 4 years for the first one to get to university. Some of us probably already have children already in university. Some of us already have children who are probably writing matric now. What course are they going to read? It's one thing to have a university degree. It's another thing to what is the employment prospect of that degree? What is it that we really need as a country? What works for us? So another problem is lack of work experience, which I do not understand. You need to give somebody a job. You can't give someone a job until they have work experience. How do they get work experience if you don't offer them the job in the first place? And then lack of soft skills, which is what some of the private sector has been complaining. We've heard about you walk into a government department, people can't even be courteous, they can't even be friendly. We simply just don't have that. We don't teach it in class because we just push down all this theory. So that becomes a problem. So these are the qualifications with low employment prospects. A group of 1,900, I think almost 2,000 graduates who were unemployed. We had to find out what they read in university. Human resources, even industrial psychology. labor relations, and then all the public admin and political science students. A lot of them, it's difficult to get jobs. It was that it takes like 2.5 years for them to get a job in where they can work and where they can actually use their degrees. So for qualifications with good employment prospects, this was less than a year, within 9 to 10 months at most. If you have an education degree, if you have a degree in maths, if you have a degree in accounting, and if you do anything that has to do with the health sector, then within 10 to 12 months, you are more likely to be employed. So this is where entrepreneurship education comes in. Some people call it entrepreneurship education, other people call it entrepreneurial education, but it's all interchangeable. It basically speaks about one and the same thing, which is developing or the process of establishing and operating growing new businesses. So we in the university are saying that it goes beyond just teaching students to create and run a business, but also includes encouraging students to think creatively and developing a strong sense of self-worth and empowerment, giving students problem-solving techniques that could help them figure out the best path. I did talk about the mandates that the universities of technology have and the mandates that we have as a university. So I then took it upon myself after receiving or being handed over the entrepreneurship and small business management modules to actually redesign the module and see how we can meet the needs of students through theoretical and practical initiatives for skills development. I am both an entrepreneur and an academic, and I tell people that some of us are used to, because of our upbringing and way of life, to actually, you can't be employed full-time, but you always need to do something by the wayside. You always need to hustle. So it's kind of like a way of life, and that I would like to convey that to my students as well. So promote entrepreneurial mindset among students and engage with students through hands-on experiential learning. So this is everything about what curriculum design is. And what was the reason for redesigning this? Like I've said, my teaching philosophy, I do not believe that as students or as a lecturer, I just have to teach people theory. You must know how to put it to practice. You must also be able to gain from it. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4 says quality education. Where we offering quality education to our students, that you can actually be trained for 3 or 4 years, and after the training, you don't get a job. So what exactly are we doing? And then benchmark against leading universities. What are other universities doing? So I got online, checked Oxford and Harvard, checked Stellenbosch, checked UCT, and then checked Princeton. I think there was also Cornell and so on. Then I found that the majority of them, when it comes to entrepreneurship and small business management, they do not write exams. And we were busy making our students write exams. Question number 1, list the qualities of an entrepreneur. And then we list, passion, creativity, risk-taking, and exactly. After that, then what? After that, then what? How does that translate to you being an entrepreneur? How does it help you? So then I had to apply for the curriculum to be changed. And they said, oh no, we have to send this to higher education and so on and so forth, because now you're changing it from writing exams to continuous assessment and so on and so forth. But it did go through almost 2 years later. And it's also one of the objectives of the EDHE, and that's South African University South Africa, and through the Entrepreneurship Development Higher Education. And then we also had to change it because of the business world and external stakeholders, so that our students can be employed. And they had already sent us the message, but you guys have got it all wrong. These guys just have only theory. They really do not understand the business or the world of work. So these were the reasons. So this is before, I think you can read this on your own, the learning outcomes, and when it was redesigned. Now, redesigning that curriculum now had to do more of practical, compiling a viable business plan, having to have our students to interact with real life businesses. Having, instead of lecturers, and you know the funny thing about academics? We teach theory. Half of the people sometimes teaching this stuff don't even practice it. We're not even real business people. Say, you know, as an entrepreneur, this is where you get money, this is how you get money. But have you ever yourself used what's in that textbook to try to get money and see if it works? But you're telling the student. So the student now says, oh, okay, now I did entrepreneurship, this is how to get money, only to be frustrated when they try to put it to practice. So how about we get a real life entrepreneur? Come and tell us where you got money and how you started your business. Come and tell us what your challenges are. So that was what it was all about. So I got it approved. That was almost 3-4 years ago. This is all theory, so we'll skip this. So, but it has to do with the fact that if you have to change your curriculum, there are certain things you have to build into that curriculum. And one of them is, I think I had to choose two. You have to look at what we call situational factors. In other words, the things which what learning expectations are placed on by the course, by the university, the institution's curricula, and society in general. When I look at our situational factors, then I look at the university, I look at South Africa as a whole, there were two things to consider: graduate attributes and decolonization. Now, whatever we do and work into the curriculum, it has to cover these two things. So then, the second thing which I had to do was to look at the graduate attributes and decolonization. There are 4 things if you want to decolonize that I picked: the expertise, teaching space, resources, materials, and how to teach. But I'm just going to focus on the content. So, but we have done all the rest. But for today's presentation, we all know what decolonization is. Now, I should have put a disclaimer there because now I'm looking and Tatempo is really reading it intently. So, so the thing is that the humanities have a different definition. Everybody has a definition. Everybody has a school of thought of what decolonization is. And why decolonization, we all know the history. But we have a dilemma. Okay, this is coloniality of knowledge. That can work. You can read that up. But this is the dilemma we have in business, is that in the wake of the 4th Industrial Revolution and the advent of AI, how do I carry out or conduct decolonizing the entrepreneurship curriculum, bearing in mind that we are training and producing students for the business sector? And business is global and international. So what do I decolonize? What are the 4 Ps? How do you decolonize the 4 Ps of marketing? How do you decolonize the planning, leading, organizing, and control? Well, they said these are the 4 functions of business management. How do you decolonize that? These are theories that are just set theories. And then for us, it becomes a problem. Now, the other dilemma of decolonizing entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurship is one of the main reasons why colonization even took place. It was all about trade. It was all about buying and selling. So it becomes very difficult to try to subtract that. So we are like in the middle of it. Other subjects, it may be easy for them. But for us that are teaching business, it's the whole core of why colonialism actually took place. So the dilemma of decolonizing entrepreneurship also, you have to think of what should be bought or sold. How much should you pay for it? How much are we actually, the rand versus the dollar, how much should we pay for it? Because if you look at how much, if we were to get the correct rate of the rand, you have to think actually we use McDonald's burger, the amount of McDonald's burger. So we are actually being overcharged. It's just, I think actually the real rate of it should be at most 6 rand to the dollar. So we have all these things. Which language should facilitate transaction? How is success measured? Is success measured by if you become a billionaire, but everybody in your village, you are from there, but there is no good road leading to your village, but you are making so much money in the city, in the town, are you successful? Compared to how about the rest of your family? We are Africans. Are we an individualistic society or are we a collectivist society? Where is Ubuntu? So how exactly do we measure success, what entrepreneurial characteristics should we consider? And then how to source for funding. So I'm just going to go with how to source for funding. So changing the curriculum, okay, all that. Um, Now, this is what we are told in the textbooks. One of the things which I have changed and decolonized, we still teach what's in the textbook, but we now had to approach Van Skyke, we had to approach Oxford and so on to say, we need to write new chapters in the textbook. We need this to become mainstream. This is what I was taught about 20 years ago. If you want to start a business, fund it with your own capital or go to the bank. You get a small business loan. When you get a loan, what does the bank ask you? Collateral. What are examples of collateral? House, land. Do you have the house? Do we have the land? But this is what we're teaching our students. So everybody looks at it and says, okay, I don't have the land, I don't have the house, so there goes my dream of having a business. So we forget about it. But the thing is, there are other ways of getting money and starting a business, and this is what I teach my students. Yes, anybody who believes you enough that you will take that money and the business will be viable and you will pay them back. Yeah. Crowdfunding. They put their stock files. And then angel or private investors. Now, this is the funny thing. We have all this hype about crowdfunding, GoFundMe, and so on, as if it's a new thing. But we've been crowdfunding for years in African society. But it just got into, it's just something the Western world just learned. And then they started touting it and putting it in the textbooks, and then we thought, but we've been doing this. But the problem is, and this age-old African practices, it's known by different names in different African societies. But when we collect this money, exactly how do we spend it? What do we use this money for? Some of us are probably just thinking of also Christmas is coming. Yeah. So we get all that money. Yeah. Macro. Yeah. We know where the money goes. Have we ever thought about using these contributions as seed money? Have you ever thought of also collecting your stock fell and helping your son or your daughter actually start that business that they're thinking about? Or we're like, hey, what if this business does not work? Are we willing to take the risk? But do we have a land to give to the bank in case for us to get that money? So we have to think of new ways of doing things. And we have to think of things that are familiar to us. And we've started writing this in textbook. Then we have experiential learning, and then the graduate attributes, which Dr. Pizzo did mention. Now, when we talk about graduate attributes, what are we saying? We are saying that it's skills or qualities that the student should gain as they go through university. And the University of the Free State has identified these 9 attributes. We just added digitalization. Since ChatGPT came out, we decided, oh, we need to add this as well. When we talk of critical thinking, our students need to think. You need to be able to solve problems. You need to be able to speak, to present. If you want to get that money from Nedbank, and Nedbank says, okay, please could you come and just give us a 5-minute pitch of what your business is about. Written communication, ethical reasoning. We've talked about different types of leadership, moral leadership, ethical reasoning. What is it that we also do when it comes to business? And then we think about community engagement. It's not only about teaching students and about us, like we've also talked, like driving in our big cars, living in our gated communities, but how do we also engage the community around us? How do we give back to our communities? Entrepreneurial mindset. Everybody has an entrepreneurial mindset. You really don't have to be an entrepreneur or run your own business to have an entrepreneurial mindset. And then digitalization. The world is highly becoming digitalized. It's computers everywhere. Can we also use that to advance ourselves and our business? So then that brought me to how I had to change my teaching, my assessment, to make sure that as the students are assessed, as we teach them, that they have to practice these attributes. At the end of the 3-4 years they spend with us, they should be able to exhibit these attributes. a final year student should be able to stand in front of people, in front of a class like this, and actually present their project. They should be able to write, compile a strategic business plan, compile a strategic growth analysis plan, be able to speak one on one with investors, be able to think critically, reason, be quick and fast. So the quizzes, the semester test, the case studies, the analysis, all these things, we put it into our tests and assignments for them. The community engagement, we brought real life businesses to them. So we invited CEDA, so CEDA comes. So instead of me telling students, this is how you access government funding and support to start your business, we got the operations manager of CEDA come and tell them, how should the students access funding? And you know what? They actually believed her more than they believed me. And then we also want to tell students, this is how you get funding for small businesses. And then we said, okay, the banks, can you actually come and tell our students how they get funding for small business? And we invited Standard Bank, and they came and told the students exactly, this is what we'll be willing to fund, this is what we are not going to fund, this is what the type of business plan we expect from you, and this type of business plan, no, no. I'm glad NetBank is here. They are next that we would be inviting to class next year. And then we got real life businesses, former students. Glow Looks, she was one of our students also. So come and tell the students how you started, what you did. And she came to class. Same with MD Designs, also, who was one of the 40 winners for NetBank Simply Bees competition, also a former student. So they come to class and they tell the students how they started. We give them topics, and then they speak to the students. And the class is always full. But every other time, they skip classes. But when they know that an entrepreneur is coming and they read the profile, the class is full. They even invite their friends who are not even part of the module. And then we have the UOF's Directorate for Research and Innovation, who come to tell them, this is how you protect your business idea. This is how you get a copyright. This is how you get intellectual property. And then we bring real life businesses. You remember, we don't write exams anymore, so we have projects. We approach real life businesses and say, what are your challenges? Then they come to class, they present it to the students, and then we tell the students, you are now, we divide students into groups of 4 and 5, and we say, you are now the consultants to this business. Now help this business overcome their challenges. You've got like 2 months to write it up. At the end of the semester, while the other students are writing exams, you will be presenting. We invite the real life business, and then you present how, what your solutions are. And so, yeah, they were busy. Sometimes I think they're just busy eating some of the stuff. So some other people were not happy that they had to probably, I think there was Born Hotel as well, while the other people were busy, always testing the products. Everybody always wants something that has to do with eating. Oh, okay. So we also had the CEO of Prime Apex as well. We also had CEO of Webaway. So we bring like 4 or 5 businesses each semester. I've got 700 students. So we have to divide them into groups. And last year in 2022, we were fortunate enough to be able to get the MEC. So he came and, yeah, and came to speak to the students, and the whole class was full. So MEC Mohale and MEC Brown were there last year. But now the thing is that they are not here because I wanted to appeal to them. Let it not be a once-off thing. Because the students were very happy. And what I liked was that they were very frank with the students. I told them, listen, guys, there are no jobs. So you need to do your best while you're here. And then the students said, but you are the MEC of Finance. How can you help us? And then she told them, if you have a business that really has to do with agric or agricultural processing, that's going to be one of the first things that we really need in Free State, and something that can actually employ people. So it was good for the students to hear this from government officials themselves. So this is where we are also appealing to you that we need that partnership and collaboration with you. Even if not the MECs, but the heads of departments, you can, and we are willing to invite you to our classes, to our space. So this is our methodology and results, what we found out. So we now decided to get student feedback through an inductive qualitative analysis. and it revealed some recurring themes. So these are some of the themes. From the results, several themes were identified. We've been collecting this data for like 3 years, so we have like 2,000 of this that we have to go through. And this is what the students said. I love the practical part, whereby we were visited by the minister. Okay, they said minister. And having us students to come up with ways of rescuing our economy together with the group assignments that was given to us, because it enabled me to see the challenges of which emerging companies come across to, and allowing us as students to come up with solutions of assisting these businesses to grow was part of, why do people just write without any full stop? So just copy and paste. To grow was part of the most things I enjoyed in this module, as I am a person who always enjoys to solve complex problems. This one says, having actual everyday entrepreneurs join us for lessons and tell us about their business and journey, and having the MECs come to class. Um, I really liked how our lecturers, I think the main lecturers, invited business people and the people from the Department of Trade and Industries. And I like this one that says, I love the fact that every time we wrote the test and articles, wrote the test, the articles that were used were about real live business owners and not just imaginary stories. And I think the other students felt happy when reading them, because they showed me that if you are determined to achieve something, you can actually achieve it. We'll just show you some few examples of those. These are the actual, this is with their handwriting. Now, those other ones I just copied and pasted because it was a lot. But here it says the same thing. I like the business plan aspect of the module and the group assignments where we had to do a business plan. Another aspect I liked is when we're exposed to people who started their own businesses. That's what they keep on saying all over. The business assignment was awesome, and the interesting videos really helped the learning experience. And that one says, I like the fact that real entrepreneurs were brought to our lectures so that we can be motivated and learn from a real entrepreneur, and so on and so forth. Okay, then township economy, because of what happened yesterday, so I just put that. But we do teach about township economy. What we are just saying is this is the reason. Um, Total market value of 900 billion. That's how much money flows through the township economy. And the majority of our students come from the townships. And they go back to that same um, location. They go back home. So we teach our students the ability to be able to recognize an opportunity in your immediate environment, how to tap into that opportunity, how to monetize the opportunity that you find, and provide quality goods and services to consumers in the township. People don't have to take the long trip to come into town to get things. And how to legitimize entrepreneurial activities actually taking place in their communities. And yesterday I did point out that there is actually a difference between township and informal. Not every business taking place in the township is informal, but sometimes we tend to use that interchangeably. But either way, we all know. I know everybody says, why are we always using a car wash? Yeah. But these are some of the opportunities. And who would have thought that this would, let's not pretend, we all take our cars there. Yeah. So, but did you think that this could happen? But there are so many other things that could happen. We just have to squint our eyes to see that opportunity. Now, these are successful township stories. So this is what our case studies were based on. We had the case study about Theo Baloyi. We also had the case study about Drip Sneakers. And we wrote their life stories, their life history. And then we had the students to answer the questions. And then some of the questions would be, apart from the questions, we will say identify what type of upbringing, identify their characteristics. Then we also wanted to get, like, for example, the reflections and perspectives from students. So
Recording
I have, like,
in
600
progress.
of them. And one of the things is, do you think, like how it was innovative, describe how? And the students would write, what critical lesson have you learned from his entrepreneurial journey? And people write to say, never give up. Even if you failed the first time, stand up again. And they started writing from their hearts, because this is on the test. And what critical lessons have you learned from the experiences of Theo? And then what advice would you give an aspiring entrepreneur or business owner? And the students would pour out their hearts and write and say, you know, I thought it was difficult. I thought you needed a lot of money to start a business. But now I found out that you don't need a lot of money to start a business. I thought you needed to go to the bank, but I see that you can just manage and take it from time to time. Then reflect on your life, because I think one of them started, I think it's like how he, drip. It was just a hobby. He just used to like doing patching shoes up and started with torn jeans. So now told the student, okay, now this guy turned the hobby into a successful business. Now you reflect on your life. Briefly discuss a talent or a hobby that you currently possess that you could monetize or transform into a business. And you would read the best stories ever. Half a page. People saying, I can braid hair. I even braid myself. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think I must tell other students that I braid hair. Others said, I can bake. I make scones. I'm going to go home. When I come back, I'm going to make scones and sell it from room to room. There were different things. They came up with new ideas and say, I never thought about it this way, but I know that I have something. So even if I don't get a job, while I'm waiting for me to get a job, I'm going to use my hobby this way. We've got barbing salon. Somebody said the next money he gets from Nesfas, he's going to buy a barbing set and then maybe let his friends know so that he can cut their hair. So these are some of the things. So lastly, on behalf of my department, I'm calling for partnerships and collaborations with you. Uh, there are only so many or so much business people that we know. I've started speaking to BMF. I had a tea time with the deputy manager, or deputy chairperson of BMF a few weeks ago. So we're still trying to get that letter. We want to get into MOUs. We want access to your database. We want access to your small businesses. Our students get the experience. Your SMMEs get help and assistance that they will probably pay thousands for consultants, but our students want to give it for free. We just want a way that we can give more experiential learning to our students so as to enhance their employability. We've got the resources, we've got the facilities. We just need a person to stand in front of the class and to engage with our students from time to time. So that's why we are here, and that's why we are appealing to you. We have one that is coming up with APSA. It's on the 6th of October. It's taking place from the 4th it's taking place on the 4th, actually, of October from 8 until 4. So APSA is coming to speak to our final year students and honor students, and it's called the Ready to Work program. They actually come to tell our students, this is the soft skills you need. If you need to work in the banking environment, or this is what you need. If you go for an interview, this is what you need. If you go into the real world, these are the type of skills that we are looking for. These are the type of skills that are going to help you. So that whole session from 8 a.m. up until 4 on the 4th of October, we have 100 students. 50 are final year undergraduates, then 50 are honor students. We already have that. So APSA is going to provide all the speakers, everything. So that's what they are going to do. So we just sit down and watch them facilitate to tell our students, this is what is needed in the real life, in real work. So this is our appeal to you. So we are here to collaborate, to partner. These children are our children, our future. According to the United Nations, it says that within the next 10 years, I think Africa would have the highest number of young people. 70% of African population will be from 0 to 30 years. What are we going to do with them? And how are we going to absorb them or make them economically viable? We had the July unrest. We don't want that to be young people 10, 20 years from now. We think of the Arab Spring and so on. For us, it may be a matter of time if we don't do something about it. So this is where, no matter how small, this is where we start. Yes, I remember everybody talking about leadership. We need strong leadership. So we need leaders to help us and to partner with us. So ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, thank you so very much for your time. So we really do appreciate the opportunity that has been given to us. And hopefully we would also get involved with this network governance, all the things that we've learned about. So once more, thank you.
let us give a round of applause once again for Dr. Benedict addressing us on the topic that says, how can we enhance graduate employability through entrepreneur education? I think what was good about the presentation, it was practical, almost tangible of what they are doing there. And I think that is what we want. One of the profound statements that she made was that a degree, it's never sufficient for us to be able to respond to the socio-economic challenges that we have. And so that requires a mind shift of some sort. It requires our education
Recording in
system
progress.
to be intentional. We need to be intentional into what we bring into the curriculum. And you know, as she was presenting, my question was that, you know, because she also shared on issues of saying what are the qualifications with good employment prospects. That is a brilliant information, that is good information. But do our students get that? Because they need, at the level of basic education, already be exposed to that information. When we give them at a higher education level, it is too late. So as she went about, she really, I think she emphasized the issue of really a mind shift, but there is my question to say, but are we bringing along, is the basic education system coming on board as well? Because the foundation should be laid there. If we talk entrepreneurship education, already at the basic education, our children must be stimulated to be thinking along. When you look at other countries, they are already stimulating children at that level. You know, other countries are training, as I'm speaking, how they need to manufacture, how they should need to deal with mining, you know, and they do not even have the mineral resources. As South Africa, we have mineral resources, but are we integrating how our children should, you know, be able to manage that in our system? We are not. So I think it's very important that we also bring on board the basic education, the earlier the better. She also emphasized the issue of holistic preparation of our students, because the employability agenda, the employer's employability agenda has changed drastically because of the economic situation that we find ourselves in, because of social needs that we have. We no longer want certificated people, but we want people who are socially conscious, as we have also referred to in the. So she really touched on very critical issues, and I believe that colleagues have really made points and questions, because we will be dealing with questions and comments right at the end of the presentation. So keep your question, don't you know, forget it, and we will deal with questions and comments as we continue. That should be bringing us then on, perhaps before I go there, I should just say it should be giving, that should be taking us to the next presenter, who is Mrs. Winnie Sirocho. And she will be dealing with skills. Sirocho, yeah. But at least you are listening attentively as well. I like that. So she will be dealing with skills development of youths in the community. And just a brief profile regarding Ms. Sirocho. She is a lecturer at the University of the Free State, and she is currently holding a BCom honors from the very same university, also MCom from the University of Johannesburg. She has 7 years of academic experience and 23 years in the public, in the non-governmental organization and private sectors in small business development, capacitating, and also with regard to research. So we're going to call upon Ms. Recho to come and take us through the second presentation. And yes, we can give her a round of applause as she comes.
afternoon, colleagues. They always say all protocol observed. So I'm just hoping that I don't want to mention people with names or mention anyone, but I just hope that we are ready for my presentation, and stepping on the toes of Dr. Benedict is going to be really big shoes to fill in with the information that she actually gave us. But my presentation basically is going to be now at the lower level. We spoke about, our graduates that are coming from universities, that have degrees, that have diplomas, like, Central University of Technology and the University of the Free State. But now, what about those young people that are actually falling in the cracks? Those young people that maybe don't have access to go to universities, those young people that don't have access to go to even FET colleges or TVET colleges. What about them? What do we do with them? Yes, as the universities, as organizations, as government, we still have, quite responsibility that we need to carry to make sure that those young people are actually also maybe part of the economy. When you walk around in our townships, you see the scary picture, a very scary picture. And when you drive around or when you walk around, you ask yourself, what are we doing wrong as a country? What can we do? Sometimes I just look at them and I feel like I can just maybe grab them and give them an opportunity to do something. But sometimes you find that maybe most of them, they are unskilled. They don't have actually, things to do, or maybe how to actually make sure that they can do something for themselves. Lester Thoreau said, show me a skilled individual, a skilled company, a skilled country, and I'll show you an individual or a company or a country that has a chance for success. He further said, show me an unskilled individual, a company, and a country. I'll show you how those individuals, companies, and a country will fail in the 21st century. And it's true. In the economy ahead, there's only one source of sustainable competitive advantage. It's skills. We're coming from an era where we didn't have, some of maybe people from rural areas didn't have full access to education. And it means if they didn't, then it means we need, as a country, we are actually need to make sure that we provide them with necessary skills to survive. % of the population of the sub-Saharan Africa is under the 25 year of age. And I think Dr. Benedict have highlighted on that we are actually the world's youngest region. And if maybe then we are the youngest region, or maybe in the African continent, what should we do with young people? We should be thinking of what can we do to make sure that we can actually make them, put them into the economic streams of our countries. Oh, okay. It is predicted that 40% of all work activities in South Africa are affected by automation. And it's not a denying factor. We cannot deny that. This is actually happening in other countries, like Ethiopia is almost 44%. In Nigeria, it's 46%. Kenya, it's 52%. We cannot run away from that. This is likely moderated by low labor cost that can actually offset new job creation. But young people between the ages of 15 to 24 make up to 40% of African total population. They account to almost 60% of the unemployment people in our country. I can't change with the, oh, okay. All right, I'm going back now, sorry. So if we come to theory now, maybe just to explain what the term skills development is as my topic. It means that the acquisition of practical competencies, the know-how, the attitude necessary for us to perform a particular job or occupation or trade in the labor market. We know that skills and knowledge, they are the key drivers of knowledge economy. Actually, they are the oil of wheels in the industries or maybe in the commerce. An acquisition of such skills by young people can actually make them to respond to the high unemployment rate that we see in the country. And the absence of real relevant skills highlights the huge number of African youth that are engaged in unstable jobs like street vendors. I'm not saying that I'm shaming that, it's part of the informal sector that we spoke about yesterday, or poorly paid work that are irregular or maybe seasonal unemployment. But the reality is, it is estimated that 95% of young people or women in the sub-Saharan Africa, of total of close to 200 million, are illiterate. And it's something that we need to face, that we need to be honest about. They are either unemployed or maybe they are in the low-paid jobs. But the scary part is, school-leaving young people, they don't have a chance to finding employment opportunities. Because some of them, they actually leave schooling without even, the basic literacy, that in terms of reading, or maybe so that it can enable them to get employment opportunities. Close to 33% of the young people that are between the ages of, around the ages of 15-year-old, and nearly 9% of 17-year-olds, they drop out of school. They do. Many school leavers tend to go out without even acquiring the basic literacy skills, like I said, leaving them unable to compete in the labor market, which leads to unemployment in the informal sector. So where are we as a country? South Africa is experiencing large number of critical shortages, critical skills shortages across different sectors. And according to job portal Career Junction, they are saying there's high critical shortages, is actually high in the IT sector. Countries with skill shortages and women capital has a bleak future. It actually have an impact on economic growth, employment creation, and so, impact on social progress as a country or as communities. In South Africa, the sad part is that we've got skills mismatch, primarily characterized by technical underskilling. This is actually perceived by potential employers. Even the level of basic numeracy, literacy skills are required in the labor market. So what can we do to empower our young people in terms of skills to address economic and unemployment challenges that we see? And I think this question is facing all of us that are in here, whether it's government, whether it's private sector, whether it's universities, or maybe even any higher education institutions. So when we look at the technical and vocational education and training colleges, which we know exactly what they do, I will not read exactly what they do. They provide post-school education training system for South Africa, but the challenge is we've got young people that maybe might not be, will be easy for them to go into this type of colleges. So we need to make sure that as TVET colleges, we provide the ability for, to accommodate each and every young people that can actually have an opportunity to go into this type of colleges. We need to make sure that we expand cooperation throughout the TVET colleges to meet the demands of the labor market. And I think that's where we're actually lacking. The mismatch that I was talking about, to say that there's a mismatch between what the labor market want and what we can actually produce, either from universities or even from TVET colleges. And it means we need to have to go into a room and have a discussion in terms of how are we going to make sure that this gap that we see on a daily basis, how can we actually close that? We need to make sure, this is actually what is coming from the Northern Cape TVET College. They are saying that keeping up with technology advancements and approaching technology at TVET colleges is quite difficult. And looking at where we're actually going as a country in the 21st century, these things need to be make sure that they are actually included, and make sure that we assist our TVET colleges to progress and develop and produce students, or maybe the students that the labor market will actually want. They say that the TVET programs are not responsive enough to the current labor market. This is actually coming from one of the TVET colleges. Then we've got the community education and training centers or colleges. They provide mainly some skills or maybe some training to adult learners or maybe youth that maybe didn't have the opportunity to go to a formal schooling or maybe to formal colleges or universities. But the challenge again here, what we see is that capacitating educators deal with diverse needs of students that are coming into the centers. We've got people really that are unemployed. Maybe I'm thinking that I need to upgrade my skill, or you've got a student that failed matric. They want to go to an adult center to go and improve their. So it's difficult for lecturers to actually, or educators to actually, handle such diverse students that are coming through. They have not attracted many enrollments. I don't know, maybe it's where we're coming from, where with the mentality that, it's an embarrassment for you to go to what we used to call night school. So people, the enrollment level is actually low. But again, even if the enrollment level is low, the dropouts also is actually very, very high. Due to different factors, like family factors, issues of transport, issues of making sure that you are there on daily basis. Maybe you are working and you need to go and attend this thing. It's quite difficult for people. And this actually leads to high non-completion of what they actually intended to do at the beginning. So we're still really in a deep trouble, even if maybe all these things that are implemented by government are there. Sorry, I'm using this mouse and it's actually making me confused. So government and private sector, there are initiatives that are there. The YES program, we know about the YES program that actually help us to make sure that there's that linkage between government and private sector in addressing unemployment for youth in terms of job placement. We've got PayYEI, which actually is actually for education assistance and general school assistance, which actually when you look at how it has performed since its implementation, you see there's a lot of improvement. But I think there's a lot of hard work that can actually be going into this so that we can see better results from this type of programs. I won't mention lots of other programs that are there. I just identified these two, which I thought maybe they are actually something that we can actually think of. But having stated all these few things that are stated, we still have a problem. Without a matric qualification, it makes it so difficult for one to get employment. And employability is low due to several factors, like what I said earlier on in terms of skills mismatch. What we need to make sure that we do, let me see, I'm good. In terms of skills development initiatives, we need to make sure that we have coordinated effort. Should I allow the minister to sit down first? No. Oh, okay. Okay, let me see. We need to make sure that we've got coordinated activities that can actually make sure that we achieve what we need to do. And I think we spoke about this last time yesterday when we were talking about we need to make sure that we've got that network, that collaboration in any sector or in any industry that we are actually in. Because if we don't do that, we find ourselves duplicating certain activities or certain things that are meant with good intentions. We see ourselves wasting resources because there's no coordination. We see that there's minimal impact in terms of the programs that we are trying to implement as private sector, also as government, even as institutions. The skills production, it's basically in terms of formal and informal, and it does not actually help us if we don't have those coordinated efforts. My mouse. So I can't even see on top now what's happening. Okay, the ILO actually has actually indicated that. Okay, the ILO has actually revealed that despite the formal qualification, young people are still actually have a problem in terms of skills demand by the employers out there. And 79% of the global CEOs said that they are concerned about the availability of key skills that are necessary for us to progress as a country. And they say that among African businesses leaders, the figure jumped to actually 87%. indicating the extreme concern in terms of lack of skills that we see in the continent. What they said, the implication is skill shortage can actually prevent them from innovating effectively. If we don't have enough skills that are available for us to innovate as countries, as companies or organizations, how do you expect us to create employment opportunities? Because those skills, if maybe they enables us to innovate, then it means we can actually create employment opportunities. They are missing the growth targets because of inadequate skills. They are saying that securing unemployment in South Africa is difficult because of those skills. Dr. Benedict spoke about the work experience. Where does our young people get work experience from? And if we don't provide that, then it's a problem. There's a problem of scale skills that was actually done by Expert Web in terms of the skills that are actually they are sourcing from outside the continent or the country. And if you look at the figure that you see on your right-hand side, the highest one that in terms of percentages of people that they're actually exporting, importing outside the country, it's engineers. 18% of those are actually imported outside from outside the country. Look at the IT specialist, 13%. Something that I never even thought can be actually something that we are actually importing is the foreign language speakers, 10%. So these are things that we need to start thinking about. We need to start looking at what can we do to make sure that those students that, or maybe those young people that I spoke about earlier on to say they are falling in the cracks, what can we do to make sure that we actually uplift their skills for them to be able to get employment opportunities? The MEC yesterday spoke about the importance of ICT. And these basically are the skills that are actually in demand currently. The data analyst, you name them, is the actually highest in terms of what we can actually look out there and say that this is actually what we need to consider in terms of uplifting our skills. But where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? And I think Dr. Benedict highlighted some of the things that we, as the university, we can actually look at, things like human resource, the humanities, as the degrees that we just feel like maybe they are not actually making an impact, and they are actually increasing the level of unemployability of our young people. But if we look at this particular figure, the 10 fastest growing jobs are the first one, AI. Machine learning specialists. But let's look at actually the ones that are actually dropping. I'm sorry, the gentleman from Nedbank, but bank tell us, and I think you can actually agree on this. It's actually it's one of the fastest growing declining jobs that we have. And you can see actually every time when you go to the bank, when you go there, I think at a bank at FNB, I'm sorry, when I go there are only two tellers. Because automation is actually taking over. They will say, go outside and deposit your money from the ATM. So these are the things that we need to start thinking about. Postal services clerks, cashiers, things are changing on a daily basis. Every time when you are away for a week and you go to ShopRite, you get something new. So it's quite scary that the data entry clerks, the admin, executive, there's a time where we're going to be doing away with admin clerks and executive secretaries. Because people can actually do everything on their phones. But if maybe then we go back to the one that we actually spoke about earlier, the 10 fastest growing jobs, we still, robotics are there, and it's something that when we're revamping our curriculum, it's something that we started thinking about to say, how can we actually try to include such things in our curriculum so that we can actually upgrade or maybe educate our students in terms of such things. So this is actually a scary picture for me when I was looking at this 10 fastest declining jobs, and I was thinking, oh, I do have relatives that are actually at the university doing some of the modules that I'm thinking that they are actually going out. We are actually, not actually we like it, but we are forced to phase them out. The challenge again is that we are in the two economy challenge, where we are actually saying that we've got the formal, like I said, and the informal economy that we spoke about yesterday. But when we look at the skills development levy, To be honest, the skills development levy is actually more in the formal sector, where we can actually go out there and skill our employees. But what about me as an SMME who's operating a small company somewhere? Can I qualify? Or maybe somebody that is in the informal sector to upskill myself, my employees, what can we actually do? So I would say that we need to start thinking about how are we going to close that gap in terms of the SDL. So how can we actually make sure that we actually going to give support to the informal sector to make sure that they also upskill their employees, even themselves, so that they can continue employing and creating employment opportunities. So what about our young people? Like I said, the question that was always in my mind, what about the young people that are out there that don't have a chance, that left school, that don't have a chance to start finding employment opportunities? And I'm just going to share with you what we do at the University of the Free State, not the university as a whole, but I'll also talk about my faculty and the department that I'm representing. There are a lot of ways of things that I can actually think of, like entrepreneurship education that what Dr. Benedict has highlighted earlier on, encouraging entrepreneurship. But she spoke about entrepreneurship maybe at the university level. And I'm here. I want to talk about our young people that are actually out there not having employment opportunities. What can we do with them? And as the department, we sat down, we thought, what can we do? We've got 4 pillars that in terms of our performance at the university, and one of them is community engagement. And I said, what can we do? Maybe we need to use community engagement to make sure that we reach out to those young people that are out there. So these are the things that I'm actually suggesting in terms of offer job learning or on-job learning and training, cross-generational mentorship. Guys, you will never thought of how general mentorship can do to our young people. It's just little knowledge that we can actually share with our young people that can actually change their mind, change their attitude, change the way they think. Let's break the on-job, no experience cycle. I understand that maybe as private companies, we are looking for people that are actually experienced. Most of the time when we advertise position, we will say 5 to 10 years experience in this particular field. Is there a way that we can actually break that cycle? Rethinking education and skills development. I think it's our mandate as the universities or tertiary institutions to make sure that we keep on thinking and rethinking the education and skills as we develop as the world. We need to make sure that to understand that informal economy is okay. And we need to make sure that when we say that it's okay, we need to make sure that we break the cycle of the red tape that we see in terms of operating businesses in the country. So our initiatives at the university, our more focus as a Department of Business Management, we are more focused on entrepreneurship, and we try as much as possible to encourage entrepreneurship. So what we do, we've got what we call the startup program, where we actually, remember as the university, we've got students that are coming from the medical center, the engineering faculty, and all that. And it's very rare that you'll find that most of them are doing business studies modules. And I always see with people that I actually interact with, that you'll find a medical doctor that doesn't even know how to, he's a medical doctor, but they don't know how to operate their own practice because they never did accounting at school. All those type of dynamics. So what we're trying to say is that we want to reach as much as possible, as wide as possible at the university to make sure that we instill that entrepreneurial skills in different faculties. So we have afternoon sessions where we invite different students from different faculties to come and present certain types of, like for example, how to manage your finances, what is entrepreneurship, how to manage your business. So by the time they leave university, at least they have that skill. So we also provide mentorship and advice to those that wants to start their businesses. We do give that support to our students. So normally what happens is Sometimes at the end, we'll ask them to submit their business idea, and maybe we can see how maybe we can actually mentor them by looking for funding. The other idea is that we are actually planning, we've got funding that is being approved in terms of developing an incubation and mentorship program at the university, which is very, very exciting, I think, for all of us. The other one that we actually started piloting last year was we worked with the community of engagement, where we were actually working with the, what is this, adult learning centers. I actually forgot the college. Before I go to that one, we actually working with also NPCs and MPO, sorry about that, where we actually training them in terms of basic marketing skills, entrepreneurship, and communication skills. As we see that most of the time, some of the NPOs and the MPCs, they fail because after maybe they can't actually continue from the funding that they had. Sometimes it's difficult for them to continue and being sustainable. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that we give them those basic skills in terms of making sure that they succeed. One of the things that I forgot to include here is that we also show them the model of social entrepreneurship. To make sure that they can actually build sustainability out of that. So that's basically what we're actually doing. The other thing is we work also with the Center of Education and Training. This is what we did earlier this year, where we actually go to the Center of Education and Training that are around our townships, and we train our young people and people that actually decided to go and enroll at these centers in terms of entrepreneurial skill, basic skills, compliance, and business model. And I want to brag a bit about this particular initiative. It's shocking to know that we still have people that doesn't even know how to register a company. And people, they are so interested to start their own businesses so that they can actually be self-employed or start operating their own businesses. I like what the MEC said yesterday when she said they go out there and train people on compliance, especially when it comes to things that are related to supply chain and all that, which is, for me, it's quite exciting. You cannot imagine the information that is actually required by our people in terms of making sure that they can start their own businesses. Out of this group, I remember when we were doing the module on compliance, we showed them actually how easy it is for one to register a company, even on your phone. Immediately when we were doing that, I think 80% of them, they were already starting registering their companies while they were seated in class. So now, because we started only with this program this year, we are going to do what we normally do at the beginning of our training. We try to do the needs analysis just to check if what actually they are going to be needing, so that we can go into training. So our trainings are not like fixed on what you see in front of you. It will also be guided by the needs analysis that we do. So after that, then we'll go back and again to do the monitoring and evaluation to see the training that we did. Did they did anything on it? Did they practice it, or what did they do? So that's basically what we do with this project. So it's quite exciting. So after this, there's so much demand, but we don't have time and capacity in the department to continue. The other one is community engagement, where we're actually looking at self-sufficiency, self-sustainability, livelihoods for entrepreneurship. We're saying that as we're actually training people on entrepreneurship, we need to also maybe to start teaching them in terms of, yes, maybe sometimes you start a business in terms of survival. You want to survive, but how do you sustain that? How do you make sure that you generate employment, or you grow the business from where it is to a higher level where it can be an enterprise that can employ people in terms of job opportunities. So that's basically one of the other projects that we do. Again, the other thing that we did is that in terms of our community engagement, we actually collaborated with Coca-Cola, with their business in the box. What we did, we offered training to their entrepreneurs that were based in the Lijoliputswa. So we went out there, we trained them, we invited them to the university for a 2-day training. We trained them, and after that, we also provided them with mentorship throughout the program for sustainability. So these are some of the projects that we do. But what I wanted to show you is like I said, when we start with the program, we try to do the needs analysis to determine how far the people in terms of their knowledge are. So what we did, we had a questionnaire where we were actually testing the entrepreneurial skills, the marketing skills, the business compliance, and the financial skills. So if you see, as you see with the colors there, in terms of the highest, it's actually blue, medium, it's orange, and low, it's gray. So when we look at entrepreneurial skills, before we did the training, this is actually what we saw in terms of maybe only 20 people that 25 people that we actually looked at. Management skill, you see that it's still, the low part is actually still high. The business compliance and the financial skills is actually even worse. And this is quite scary. If you go into entrepreneurship and you're not sure how to manage your finances, it's quite scary for one to even start. Okay. So as much as I've showed you some of the initiatives that we are trying in the department, but we do have some challenges. We don't have resources in terms of capital or maybe funding or human capital. We do this as part of our community engagement, like I said, but I think if we can continue with this, we can actually do something in collaboration with other people in terms of making sure that we implement this. Lack of support and time, lack of private sector partnerships. We are trying our level best, but it's quite difficult to get. The high demand for those type of initiatives in the communities is very, very high. We're actually even scared now to go out and keep on doing this thing because it's actually quite high. We cannot maybe meet the demand. The other thing is that sometimes when you train people, they'll want accreditation, and we still need to apply for that in the department for those, light modules that we are doing, how to be accredited for that. But I think the last thing that I want to highlight as the main challenge that I see is coordination. Coordination not only even from outside the university, inside the university, we're still trying to make sure that as a Department of Business Management, to make sure that we coordinate all the activities so that we shouldn't waste resources. And I think as the university is something that we need to start working on. But this coordination is not only for us, it's always for everyone that is in here. I think social development is here, and I spoke about the MPOs. What can we do for the MPOs? Can we sit down in a room and talk? The STEA is here, can we talk? Private sector is here, our FDIs are here. Can we sit down and talk and see how we can actually collaborate or coordinate these efforts that we see? In conclusion, I still say that there's still inadequate coordination. The other thing that I notice is poor evaluation. We don't evaluate our project to see if maybe whatever that we implemented, did it bear fruits? Or what can we learn from that, or how can we improve from where we are to going forth? By this, colleagues, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Colleagues, let us give Ms. Rachel another round of applause for a very interesting presentation. And I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of MEC Brown amongst us. You are welcomed, Ms. Brown. And we also have the presence of our HOD. I think also extending words of congratulations with her appointment as the HOD Community Safety, Roads and Transport. Congratulations, Mme. Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Rachel. I think you took a slightly different approach there, where you put more emphasis on really zooming into those youth that are falling in the cracks. And I think we cannot turn a blind eye, from that. It is our situation, and something must be done so that we are also responsive to it, especially because we have highlighted that we are amongst the world's youngest region, and so we need to be responding to those issues. How can we upskill those youth, especially also looking into the issues of the 4AR effect, the automation situation that we are in. I think what was also important that you raised as you ended off was also sharing some of your practical initiatives. And you have indicated that you use entrepreneurship education, community engagement, which I want to tap into because that is a very effective approach that you have mentioned. Because when we talk about skills development and we talk about education and training institutions realigning their curriculum to be responsive to the skills that is needed in the labor force, we also talk about the issue of the universities needing to, they need teaching methodologies that transcend the lecture room. And community engagement is one of those. I have practically been involved in it as well. And what is nice with that approach is that it is reciprocal. It is not only an approach where you give skills, the students give skills to those, that group of youth that needs to be skilled, but they themselves also are given an opportunity to develop certain skills that we have said are responsive to the current employers' employability agenda. So thank you so much with the presentation. Maybe just to bring on board the MEC and the HOD, we are a little bit behind schedule because this morning we had to start off with a presentation by Dr. Pera, who could not join us yesterday. But we were graced by his presence this morning, where he also took us through the issue, the notion of ethical leadership, and we had very interesting and mind-provoking discussions earlier on. Then we moved on, starting off with a presentation by Dr. Benedict, who dealt with how can we enhance graduate employability through entrepreneurship education. And one of the things, as she ended, that she referred to was making a call for partnership and collaboration between the higher education institution and government itself. And I think we also saw you there, where you made a presentation in one of her modules, I think, because there is a need for government to also be involved at that level and share those practical experiences and needs with the students at that level. Now we are with Ms. Rachel, which I've just summed up, and we'll be moving to our third presentation by Ndade Chomani. So that was just to give you a brief of where we started off and where we are now. The focus today is on skills development and youth unemployment as one of the issues that also needs to be addressed so that we are responsive, or we are able to contribute to the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. I think by saying those words, without much ado, I can still continue. I think, yeah, I managed as well here. Okay, all right. There will be a slight change into the program. We will just pause for 5 minutes or so, and then we should be able to resume afterwards. Oh, what was that? Okay, the MEC is going to just give us a brief, and so we can give her a round of applause as she's coming.
Thank you, Dr. Pizzo. I can see, I can take advantage of Dr. Pizzo because not like Madupi. Madupi would be like, no, this is my program. But colleagues, I won't be able to stay for the rest of the program. Let me, before I begin, I just want to acknowledge Dr. Shabalala. Dr. Shabalala, she's also provided some great input to our colloquiums in the past. She is one of the fundis, you know, if I need to talk about job creation, temporary, the EPWP program, benchmarking at every level across the world, she's the lady I would go to. Welcome again to everyone, senior management,
of all departments, all stakeholders, civil society, the Free State Provincial Legislature, Office of the Premier, and I mean I can list all the departments that that are here, but all stakeholders that are here today and on the hybrid platform. Colleagues, I do want to apologize. I'm not going to be staying for the entire day. My schedule has also been interrupted for today. We are busy preparing for the meeting next week with, like I said, the presidency, and we've just got to put together some work. I just concluded with the Premier now, so I know that he needed to be elsewhere, but he's still busy working on those matters. But what I thought I would do before I leave is, once again, just thank you for your participation, your commitment, and being here over 2 days. I know it's not easy in the type of work that we are doing. We get these quadrants: urgent, not so urgent, important, not so important, and I don't know if those have changed now, if there's new theories and methods to manage our time. But I know that each of us have got responsibilities, personal and work responsibilities. So let me start by saying I'm incredibly grateful for having all of you spend the 2 days here. Secondly, I called a couple of my team members yesterday. We just debriefed about a couple of things. And what I can say, and the consensus around the room, is that the level of engagement is rather high, meaning that we've raised the bar, and as a collective, we've also understood that Free State Province becomes the flagship on research for the country. So everybody looks at this colloquium and uses it as its guiding light towards how we do our business in the province. And I want to thank you all for keeping that status amongst my colleagues and my peers across the provinces. The third thing that I'd like to outline is that and I think everyone else, is incredibly interested in having copies of these papers, reviewing it, but with strong recommendations to our teams that are going to put together the debriefing report, which I would want us to present to EXCO. And I think it's important because we know of a colloquium, but our vertical, horizontal leadership and peers and our staff don't know what it is that we do. And these reports or papers with strong recommendations must be placed into some type of working document. Most criticisms I'm getting out of when I listen to it online, because like I was saying yesterday and even today, the criticisms that we as government are receiving is that we suggested 1, 2, 3, 10 years ago. We did this paper 15 years ago. We had provided this type of strategy or guidance. And we could have prevented a lot of the challenges that are occurring in our society and times today by really taking these documents seriously and placing them in a working document. I can also attest to the idea that the Premier, His Excellency Ndati Dukwana, has commissioned a war room in our province. And part of the work that he wants to do is he wants to bring the universities on board. He wants to bring in specialists like yourselves to help us fight and tackle problem by problem. So if you know what a war room is and how it was constituted, it was in the World War I and II, where a strategy was formulated, a combat method and strategy, and then a plan in order to execute whatever the vision of that leadership of the time is. So what he aims to do is taking our projects from where it is into a project management situation. But a project management situation where turnaround times is not like we're seeing now, where you have a turnaround time of 3 weeks to get a RFQ out as an example, to tend to a pothole. If there is an ambulance that needs to come in for an emergency, there should be some sort of a fusion center that allows us to know the best route, the best time, which ambulance. I mean, it's like Uber, right? You call for an Uber, and the Uber that's closest to you at any given time, those of you who use Uber, will come and Uber is 3 minutes away, and you wonder, oh my God, how many Ubers are around you? Because, I mean, this Uber is just here, you know? So applications like that are already built and in the system. Why can't we utilize formations such as those to help us deal with productivity and operational management and time management and emergency and other types of, you can call all these managements management, whatever it is, but why can't we use such applications to help us find ways and mechanisms to be able to be saving people's lives in a whim? So there's a couple of ideas, but what we want to do is we want to deposit these papers into that war room to tackle some of the challenges that is going to be placed in the war room. And it's largely going to be service delivery issues. Largely what we're talking about today is skills and other, but it will be project management approach. It will be issue by issue by issue by issue. It won't be a holistic view of things, so that we could deal with a process where we're saying, okay, we've done this, we've done that, we've done that, and then build that into the system so it can create a systemic future environment of change over a period of time. So I think for me, I'm very excited. We're taking what we see as this research colloquium, we're taking it to a different level. And when I see a project being enhanced over years, so you're taking a concept and you're building on it and you're making sure that its impact and its outcome is much greater than the initial desire. That then tells us that we are working towards greater success and future success. So I'm very, very pleased with what I have seen today. I would have loved to have stayed, and I can tell you out of today's presentations, I would have loved to have stayed for the government debt and fixed capital formation nexus. Ms. Kabele, where are you? I'd have loved to listen to your presentation, but I will receive it. And it would be interesting to have an engagement with you at some point. I'll listen to it as well if I can. And we can have a one-on-one. I'd like to hear your views and what it is that we can do differently. Notwithstanding that every other topic on the agenda for both days are just equally important. I just got different interests in different things. But yeah. So, colleagues, as I depart, I'm not going to be here for yesterday was my son's birthday. So I hadn't spent time with him yesterday. And I promised him a little bit of a party this afternoon. So that's at 4 o'clock. But also it's Friday and we do our prayers. And I've got like this list of stuff, departments that I still need to see for preparation for Monday and Tuesday's meeting. But what I want to say as I conclude, and as I'm not sure, HOD, Dr. Shabalala, I'm sure you would provide some closing remarks, if I can delegate that to you. And then the team will then facilitate how the vote of thanks and everything else will happen if the HOD is not, HOD Treasury is not here. What I'd like to say upon my departure is I think I have been very clear. I've requested a list of recommendations from each of you in the department, Doc, Stephen, Mr. Jumani, and the rest of the teams. We've also looked at some of the recommendations and presentations that we've received from the other presenters. And I'm going to consolidate that, and that's going to be the basis of my introductory remarks to the executive, which will be the voice of this collective. So note that whatever it is that you are contributing today, this collective is going to have a voice in our EXCO in order to be able to take whatever recommendations you've provided forward. Lastly, and it's my last, I'm a solution-based person and an action-based person. I can assure you 6 months from now, I'm going to remember everything I asked everybody to do. And a year from now, I'll remember, and 2 years from now, I'll remember. I've got notes, I write it down, and I go back to my notes, and I keep everybody in check. So the 2 colloquiums that I've been at, was it 2 or 3? 3, right? We did 1 hybrid and 2 physical. This is going to be the 4th one, right? Is this the 3rd one? Yeah. So the 2 previous ones. What I agree with is this will not be shelved. And I want what we are doing, because Winnie, some of the stats that you put there, I was far in advance with them when I was still in Destia. We saw some of these things happening then. So we are not going to put this on a shelf and let it collect dust. And I'm asking you to make sure it's your responsibility that that doesn't happen. I'm looking at you guys here now. So Dr. Chabalala, your first 5 years starts now. And you'll be remembering this voice. That as you attend the next few colloquiums, we must have a 3 minutes. You see, I like the 3 minutes, because it gives them 5 minutes. 3 minutes reflection on maybe critical, the 6 or 7 themes of where we are at in terms of what we've done here this year and how we've integrated this into government's work over the medium-term expenditure framework. Your role is shaping this new administration, because we're closing the 30 years next year. We're going to do a 30-year report, and we're starting off with a new administration in terms of, whichever way it goes, in terms of how government will operate for the next 10, 15, 30 years. Now, out of all of us, the leader in this room that will be here for 5 years is Dr. Chabalala. And that we can confirm, because she was appointed on Wednesday. So, I'm asking you, Ma, hold this baton for us and take it forward and make sure that whatever efforts our colleagues have done today is not going to collect dust, and that it is going to be seen as the work, the sweat, the blood, the effort, the time, the amounts of hours of research, the journals that they have written, the sacrifices to their family and friends and their personal time to submit to this provincial government for the sake and the benefit of our people of this province. Let us appreciate and honor their work and make sure that it is integrated into the work of our government. With that said, have a wonderful weekend. Congratulations on your beautiful papers. I'm hoping that these papers are a step forward to further your academic career, further your personal experience and qualifications, and I hope that it also contributes to the success in your future ambitions and endeavors. And after giving the instruction that I did, I'm most certain that those papers would benefit the province of the Free State. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and once again, thank you very much for your commitment. Thank you, Dr. I wasn't long, ne?
Thank you so much, MEC, and happy belated birthday wishes to your son. We hope that you enjoy the celebration later on today. Yes, we thank you for your courtesy just to come and send off, those final words that comes from you. We thank you for the words of gratitude that you have also extended to the colleagues due to their hard work and their participation. We appreciate that. Earlier on, we talked about leaders leading by example, and it is beautiful to see it happening, through our MEC. So we appreciate that. We can give a round of applause once again for our MEC as she's departing the venue. And yes, she also made me realize that I omitted our virtual participants. Thank you so much, MEC. And so, yes, we also welcome, I hope they are there and they are listening, the virtual participants. We are already behind schedule, colleagues, so without really wasting time, I think we will be moving to the next presentation, but I think also what is important that the MEC have said here is assuring us that this is not just, it will not just be a talk show, but there will be, you know, mechanisms put in place to make sure that they find expression in how we are doing things as government, and we appreciate that. And Dr. Masigo, the baton is on you, and all eyes are on you now, without really putting pressure on you. But yes, we appreciate the words, and we are moving to our second last presentation of this session, which will be presented by Ndade Chomani, my colleague. And briefly, he is standing right here as if he's saying I must not do the profile, and I'm going to do it briefly, like I've done it with everyone. I'm refusing to be intimidated. Yeah, we've got Ndade Chomani, and he is a Deputy Director in Economic Analysis Directorate in the Free State Provincial Treasury. He is possessing an honors degree in economics and also has a master's in public administration. Ndade, I think what is important to mention here, one of his contributions in research is a conceptual framework for using social innovation as an approach to local economic development in collaboration with Dr. Bill John, and also a contribution in terms of a thematic analysis of social innovation as an approach to local economic development, and once again in collaboration with Dr. Bilyun. Yes, Ndade Chomani, the podium, you can take the podium and take us through. Thank you. We can give him a round of applause for that.
Thank you, Dr. Peter. Colleagues, good afternoon. I'll be very short. You can look at my size and my height and everything else. That's me. So I won't be very long. Colleagues, yes, we are running out of time, but by looking at the way things are going, I appreciate whatever is happening because it's worth it. So my presentation is very short. It's trying to promote youth participation in local economic development. My interest mostly are in local economic development. The reason is very simple. In terms of the Constitution of South Africa, local economic development has been placed at the center of economic development of any community, according to Section 152. And we are not doing good in that particular sphere. That's why I'm trying to promote that part every time wherever I go, because if we get it right, most of other things would fall into place. The purpose of my study is to promote youth participation in economic development within the Free State Province through local economic development. Now, in terms of introduction, if you look at the youth cohort, they contribute about 35% of the population. Now, in terms of the demographics, it constitutes a youth bulge. A youth bulge simply means that they are more than any other cohort within our communities. And they are the most vulnerable, and yet they are the future leaders. That's why we want to put a lot of emphasis on them. I will appreciate the two presenters, Dr. Benedict and Meserejo, for giving us the practical part of how to solve these issues. Mine is not a practical part because from where I come from, we are always looking at a helicopter view of things to pinpoint to policymakers to say, these are the problems, get deeper into them. So I'll still be offering that kind of a helicopter view because that's what I do in Treasury. We don't go deeper into the spaces of economic development to look deeper into the issues of small businesses, the issues of the youth as they are. But we are trying to give the pointers to where we see the problems coming from. Now, as it was mentioned, they are the most unemployed in terms of numbers, especially the cohort between 15 to 24. That is the most cohort that is mostly vulnerable and the mostly unemployed cohort. Overall, from 15 to 35, it's about 46, 49, depending when you have looked at your statistics. But for Free State, the statistics are higher than South Africa, which means now my statistics will be a little bit higher than what Dr. Benedict has given you. Now, they lack a lot of things: job experience, skills, job search abilities, financial resources to find employment. Those has already been highlighted, so I won't go deeper into the details. We have promised them, as a country, a better life for all. But yet, the unemployment is rising. That better life for all is not coming to materialize, it's not materializing. Therefore, that is the problem that I want to highlight, to say, yes, let's look at this youth. How best can we try to assist them? Then we would look at the global issues. The youth are also highlighted globally in terms of the challenges that are being faced by the youth. They've got a lot of interest, these youths, that we need to take care of. It's not only one size fits all if you look at the issues of the youth. Now, South Africa, when it started this process of developing its own constitution, it accommodated them directly and indirectly according to Chapter 7, Section 152. We even go further to have a National Youth Development Agency Act of 2008, just to summarize these issues, which gave rise to a new National Youth Development Agency, NYDA. Now, in this article, we are trying to explore how best can we try to promote youth participation in local development at a broader level, not pinpointing the issues, the different issues, the skills level, the education level, and all of those, because they are part of and parcel of the youth in general. So we looked at a qualitative interpretivist research approach, where we use content analysis of the research that has already been highlighted to look at the issues that will at least allow us to be able to pinpoint how best can we promote the youth participation in economic development. Therefore, this is just the conceptual framework to say what is it that we are talking about when we're talking about the youth. We categorize them in terms of age. But what is certain is that it's a social construct to say, how do we view the youth? In which ages are they? Because there is no standard or a holistic or one approach fits all. The United Nations will tell you that the youth are between 15 and 24, but in South Africa, we use the statistical approach, the Statistics South Africa's approach of saying between 15 and 34 years of age. Now, and then we look at participation to say, it is a process that involves, influences, and engages the youth in decisions and outcomes for their own benefit. So it means we look at the youth, we look at their participation, and how best can we promote that participation. And then we say that the best way to do it is to look at genuine participation in terms of how best do we fit all these other problems that the youth have into particular categorization that have already been mentioned, so that the impact becomes real. Now, then we looked at what LED constitutes, what youth participation constitutes, so that we have a clear view of what we are talking about. Now, in LED, it's an outcomes-based approach that allows and encourages communities to work together for mutual economic growth and development. And that comes directly from the Constitution. LED itself is an ongoing process. It is not a static process that has diverse local practitioners within it. It has businesses, it has the youth, it has all this kind of participation, of participants. Its main role is to create the conditions for all of these participants to be able to participate within that space. Now, if we look at youth participation, it has been summarized very eloquently by Dr. Benedict. It is the process about empowering the young people in setting their own goals, finding resources for them to be able to allocate, and creating opportunities for them to be able to influence the outcomes for their own benefit. So that is the gist of what I'm trying to come up with. Then we have the theoretical view of what theories are telling us and how to best fit the theory within the LED space. Now, the main theory that I like there is the empowerment theory, because it promotes youth as participants within their own economic space. It ensures that youth have the right skills, tools, expertise, and access to resources and transfer of power. And that's what my two colleagues have been doing before, just to tell you that how best can they transfer these skills to the youth. Increasing access to economic resources. How can we assist them to be able to find the resources for their own economic development? Enhancing the capacity of individuals to make choices. But after all, this whole empowerment process, it's a long-term process. It's not something that can be a quick fix or, low-hanging apples. It's a long-term process that needs a lot of planning and maturity to be able to implement it over a long period of time. Now, the main thing that LED has to do here is to create an enabling environment for the youth to be able to participate, putting young people in the center of development and supporting them to contribute to development in the community. How do they do that? They must form partnerships. They must be able to carry these partnerships forward in terms of actively structuring them, in terms of being able to collaborate with other partners in the spaces of the economic development of those municipalities, of those local spaces that is closer to the people. Include the plight of the youth in decision making and in partnership formation, giving them the resources, the information that they need for them to be able to participate. Yes, in Bloemfontein, the youth here have a lot of access to many of these opportunities. But if you go down to our smaller municipalities, your Lady Brent, your Southpan, and those youth don't know where the resources are and what to do. So it is the role of the municipalities, because they are closer to them, to be able to partner with these other partners and bring the resources closer to the youth so that the youth are informed and are able to participate. Networks and platforms, those are very key in trying to get these youth to be able to participate. The municipalities should be able to partner, network with these people, as we are doing in the colloquium, so that they know where to find information that they can give to their own youths. Promoting youth entrepreneurship, that has already been done by Dr. Benedict, so I can't go. The only thing I would say under promoting it is promoting a culture of entrepreneurship from all partners and all age groups. That will be key. Promoting early participation. We can't leave it until at the end at the university level and say that we have done well. We should start from an early age so that it becomes part of our culture, so that it changes as you grow. Promoting stakeholder engagement. Increasing the network of people and partners that support youth participation in their own development. We can't say that youth are unemployed, but we are not doing anything. If you give information to the youth to say, if you need this kind of skill, these are the people that you can look for. These are the people that you can meet and ask them how best can they assist you. Now, the legislative context, I've already highlighted it, that it comes from the Constitution, and everything follows from the Constitution. The Bill of Rights, Chapter 13, Section 217, National Youth Act of 1996. So those are the acts that promote this youth participation. But they are there, written eloquently and everything else, but in practice they are not effective enough because we are not doing much to promote those kind of things that are already there in the Constitution. Now, the NYDA was supposed to carry this flag up and be visible all over it goes. If it is not visible, it should partner with the municipalities. But that partnership, it's not visible, we can't see it. For an example, I invited them to come, to be part of us, to be able to represent the youth, especially in this section. I did not get a response, so I'm not sure if they are here or not. But I don't have a response. But you didn't meet me, and I invited you. You see? So maybe I could have given you a space. Because that's the information that we need. I can't represent them. They need to come and tell us their stories, how best they are doing it. So I think we will talk after this. Yeah. Because that's my role. Yeah, to try to get all the participants in one place so that we can talk to the issues that affect our communities. So I won't talk much on the issues of NYDA. They would be able to, I think they would be given an opportunity sometimes as we go in our normal working session so that they present their issues. But it would have been nice for me if they can respond to what is happening out there, because legislatively, it is their role to look into the issues of the youth, the skills development, educational issues, all of those issues, so that we know what are the challenges that are facing them. We have the youth themselves and their own challenges. They have been mentioned eloquently by Dr. Benedict. And then we have also challenges relating to LED. And there as a country, we are not doing that very good. LED is not doing what it is supposed to do. It was mentioned yesterday when we were dealing with leadership issues, that even the strategic position that LED has to take, either it is non-existent or it is being drafted by other people, consultants. Now, when somebody drafts something for you and you are going to implement it, in most of the cases you don't understand what that person wanted you to do. So it's best if you participate in the development of that little piece of paper that you are going to develop or that you are going to implement at the end of the day. So that's where we are missing most of these things, to say the people that are supposed to carry some of these things forward are not able to do that because of various reasons. Some is skills issues, some is just many other issues that you are in a position but you don't understand what is it that you are supposed to do and how to partner with other people and do all of these things that are supposed to be done in order for you to be able to create a conducive climate for the youth to be able to participate. Those are the challenges that I've mentioned there. Now, in my conclusion, I'm saying that we have been having these very nice programs that are supposed to support the youth. But it is time that we reimagine the role of them. It's not wrong. The ideas are good, but the way we have implemented them, we are not getting the right results. So we need to reimagine the role of LED in municipalities to be able to support partnership and stakeholder engagements and networking. How best can we do that? We need to reimagine that. The people that are in that space, it is their role to be able to say, these are the issues that have been highlighted, what is it that we are doing with them? Encouraging and supporting the youth employment services. Those are, I would say, low-hanging fruits. Giving them the opportunities, but in those opportunities, give them the skills as they participate in those engagements. Improving and creating more youth desks in municipalities to collaborate with businesses. Youth don't know what to do. So they should be able to know where to go if they find information. You might not have all the information that you need, but at least you might know somebody who can assist. Just taking your phone and calling that somebody, I have a person here who needs information on this particular issue. That would create at least a little bit of an encouragement to the youth to say, even if I have challenges, But there are people out there who are able to connect me with the right people who would listen to me. Reimagining the role of the public expanded public works program. That program is a good program, but we need to offer these opportunities to the youth to say, if you get into this program, the outcome would be this, would be able to do something, would be able to get a skill at the end of the day. We need to look firmly into those things to say, yes, we have these good things, but are the result as good as these things were formulated? If not, what is it that can be done? Support to build entrepreneurship, that has already been highlighted. Encouraging skill development, that has already been highlighted. That is my role, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Re a leboha haholo Ntate Chomane, a ke re mo opele matsoho hape. Just a round of applause. Thank you, Ntate. The colleagues are looking very tired. Hungry. Hungry. Colleagues, I'm suggesting that we hold on just for a couple of minutes to allow the last presentation. And then we open for a quick question and comment session. And it is now you, how you're going to deal with that. That is between us and the lunch, isn't it? So, yeah, later on. But after this session, we're going for lunch. Okay. So we're going to finish off this round. Is that fine, colleagues? Can we just hold on there, isn't it? Can we do it? Some other faces are not agreeing with me, but it's fine. It's okay. I think I'm not going to even waste any more of our time. Thank you so much, Ndade, for really focusing on that youth participation in local economic development. And we going to move to the next presentation by Mayor Kabele. Mayor Kabele can, as she's coming forth, I do not have her. She's? Okay. Mekabele, as she's coming, she is our colleague and intern from Distea, and she will be presenting on a topic, the government debt and fixed capital formation nexus. Over to you, Mekabele.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Good afternoon, HOD and ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to present the government debt and fixed capital formation nexus. Yesterday, Dr. Mokwena, my manager, presented inflation targeting band, the government debt and capital formation nexus in South Africa. I was actually supposed to present before him, but protocol observed. So because he wasn't available for questions and answers, those questions that were written down yesterday, he will answer everything. So I'm giving him platform for that. The past speakers talked about mostly graduate employment and skills development. And we forget about after we get work experience as interns. Because in the same way, because yesterday there was a talking about this cost containment. We are interns in government. And then probably some of us, their contracts end now, others next year. And meaning After that, what is going to happen to us? Are we taking that work experience home? Um, because we realize that the government debt over the next 3 years, it has to spend at least 1.1 trillion to pay off the interest and part of its debt. So we wonder from now on, when are we going to get those jobs? For instance, in the Free State, how many companies are private? If government already, uh, there are, there are, they are stopping those employment, there's not going to be any employment for, we don't know until when. So meaning we are just going to take our experiences home. Let me, let me get to the introduction on my topic. Theoretical model suggests that an increase in government spending puts upward pressure on interest rates, which in turn leads to lower private investment. We just realized that whenever the government spend or borrow, the interest increases, and there are no investment from the private companies. Um, so we therefore have to explore the impact of rising government debt on investment in South Africa. Scroll. We, Dr. Mukwena, yesterday you saw this graph. So here we, and another gentleman yesterday behind me was saying graphs don't lie. I don't know how true is that. So it shows that the figure one, the gross fixed capital formation to GDP ratio to consumer prices. And also the second one, it shows that during post 2010, there was the era of policy rates. We see during 2007, there was an increase because of the financial crisis, and hence the consumer prices increased and interest rates. Here are the responses of cross fees capital formation to increase in government debt. We see in the 2000 quarter one to 2019, there was the bigger magnitude, and which are negative and persistent because government had to borrow, because you remember in 2014 there was a recession which had a great impact in the government debt. Does an increase in government debt affect gross fixed capital formation asymmetrically? As we said, whenever the government debt increases, the investment declines. We have to examine the government debt increases on the fixed formation of the public corporations, private business enterprises, and general government. As we look at the private business enterprises, we see that they were very highly responsive to positive government debt as it increases more than the public corporation and the general capital formation. As we conclude, we see the public corporation capital formation declines with the delay and remain depressed following the increase in government debt. The general government capital formation also reaches a peak decline of a 1.5% in 2 quarters and revert towards zero. Investment by business enterprises remain highly depressed over the entire focus horizons. Hence, this indicates that the decline in cross fixed capital formation is due to declines amongst the disaggregated component. So the question is how the government is going to, what is going to do in order to help with the debt, because as I said in the beginning, that from now on, there's going to be a situation, already they've started about those cost containment. Is it going to work? And how? Is it going to benefit the free staters? Because as I listen to Dr. Benedict, the graduate employable in the Free State, she said is like 1%. It's very low. Even when you go to DPSA, for instance, and then you look at vacancies, most of the time we get it Gauteng, Western Cape. And I remember the gentleman yesterday was asking about where are the Free Staters. Those businesses in the Free State comes from people outside. Because Free Staters see the opportunities outside of our provinces. Because, for examples, like as I said, how many private companies employ in Bloemfontein? Because most people from small towns come here to say, it's City of Roses. There are many opportunities. But when you're in Bloemfontein, you're like, there are no opportunities as compared to Gauteng. So we need to find solutions as Free Staters to see how government is going to decrease their debt, because this is going to affect a lot of people. As I said, unemployment, poverty, obviously there's going to be crime, because the minute people are sitting there at home, they'll have nothing to eat. What are they going to do? So we need to look at solutions. I thank you.
Let us give a round of applause again for Mayor Kabele for taking the challenge of really presenting as an intern. I think that is a challenge and a half. It should not be taken light. And thank you for that last presentation. Colleagues, we're not going to waste time. We're going to go immediately into the question and comment session. And I want to call upon all our presenters to come up front as colleagues are preparing themselves to comment or to give a question. If you have, the idea is to really contribute into the discussions, provide solutions where we can, and really see how we can come to solutions in some of the issues that have been raised. So I would like to call upon our first presenter, Dr. Benedict, who addressed us, focusing on enhancing graduate employability through entrepreneurial education. And then I also want to call upon Ms. Recho, dealing with skills development of youths in the community as you take your seats up front. And we're also going to call upon Dade Chomani, who also looked at the issues of youth participation, particularly focusing on local economic development in the Free State. And our last presenter, Mayor Kabele, on government debt and fixed capital formation nexus. So those are our four presenters. good presentation. And can we give them the last round of applause for those informative and mind-provoking presentations? And I believe, colleagues, you have listened, you have applied your mind, and now it is the time for us. We are at, in terms of time, 13:41, and we are hoping that by 2 o'clock at least we might be released for lunch. So I want to open the platform to colleagues, and by a show of hand, I already see a hand at the back. I see a couple of hands. I don't know if there is a mic roaming. Is there a roaming mic? Nonetheless, I saw Dr. Mukwena, I saw Dr. Pukunzi, I saw Ndate in front. I also saw Ndate at the back, Mepinki, and yes, our usual, don't know what to say. Yeah, but we know now about Abutimpo. Yeah, so it's always like that in any setup. We always have our pause, isn't it? Yeah, but very challenging, inputs also coming from him. Ndate, Dr. Mukwena, we shall give it unto you, and we'll appreciate that you just indicate, for the sake of other people, your name, your institution, where you're coming from, and where is your question or comment pointing to in terms of our presenters, so that we are able to help them. Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Thabo Mokoena. I'm head of economic research and planning at the STIA. Yes. I just have 2 comments.
1, 2.
I just have 2 comments concerning skills development as well as capital formation and debt nexus. The evolution of skills development is so fast, and it's skewed toward fourth industrial revolution matters. So, for example, now we have online databases, a lot of things that are happening. So the skills development in that area requires things like machine learning, which people can access through Wits University or University of Cape Town. But the difference is that this is a highly elitist area. Everything is becoming highly elitist, and therefore there is a much bigger mismatch between labor demand and labor supply. So, for example, when you study machine learning, which I did at Stanford, a short program, you require a minimum of something like econometrics, advanced econometrics. You require advanced statistics, and you have to understand something called asymptotic theory of big data. So I just wanted to indicate that actually we may be trying to push people in a certain direction only to find that they get replaced by online activities. The other thing is that online, remember when things are online, they get accessed by the whole world. So the consumer preferences become very, very complex. So you need all these programmers, data scientists, and so on. I thought I should indicate that because it's not an obvious area. The second one is that yesterday there was a release of data concerning the profile of national expenditure. It turns out that debt, government debt, is the third item, and after that is health. And government debt is really going to cause problems for this country, because the mechanism that I mentioned yesterday of having the Reserve Bank buy the debt of government, it has also constitutional implications. So, for example, the Constitution may say you can only buy up to 1/3, so meaning up to 1 trillion. But to solve these problems, these big problems of South Africa, let's assume that that mechanism works. Then what should happen is that the, the governance of state-owned entities must change, and then you recapitalize this, because every loss in, as you know, every loss in the income statement reflects in the shareholders' equity. And so over time, it reduces owners' equity, which is government in this particular case, or government entities. So you need to fix that and then move on and recapitalize the state-owned entity, the DFIs, so that they're able to push credit, because credit is oxygen in the economy. So that needs to happen. And also governance issues must be addressed. The third one is to recapitalize municipalities, because municipalities are struggling with issues like water, with a lot of this. The longer the government waits to recapitalize municipalities, you will have big potholes everywhere, and you won't have investment. I've been going to various municipalities at district level, making them aware of why there is such a lack of investment and most of it is the ease of doing business, as well as the cost of doing business. For example, if you focus on something like rates and taxes.
As you conclude, Doctor, so that we also give other participants some chance. No, you can wrap up. You can wrap up just.
Yeah, I just wanted to
few
say,
minutes.
the cost of doing business in terms of rates and taxes, if it's 2 cents, it's okay. If it goes more than 2 cents, it's trouble. So, for example, property taxes for a 1 million, 1 million business, for example, it's 1,667 per month. So you can imagine when you add electricity and you add these other things. So there needs to be a real effort to address the issues of the economy, and also to deal with the debt in the provinces and in municipalities, because it's a disaster currently.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for wrapping. I think it's just on a comment level there. And for ease of flow, we'll start from this side. So I also saw Dr. Pukinze, and I really want to encourage participants to be concise as we put our points forth, and just be straight to the point. If it's a comment, just give it to us. If it's a question, be clear, and we can give other people to participate. Thank you. Dr. Pukunzi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I don't know why you do it to me. I had a full speech written here that I was, but no, it's fine.
Well, I can receive.
It is on a light note. Colleagues, Chairperson, I want to start by saying I wish the LED officials from municipalities were part of this gathering today, because most of the presentations, touched the moment you talk about young people and opportunities. It's very important that we need to have them. And then maybe just to move with my comments, I don't expect any colleagues they will note if there's any question, so that we don't waste your time. Maybe there's also, in terms of dealing with issues of youth development, there's a need to close the gap between the relationship between the provincial government and the NYDA, because I know that currently policy prescribes that NYDA report direct to the national office. And I think that is a gap. If we want to synergize, we need to get that relationship dealt with. And then also, maybe colleagues, we need to also, when we, the issue of inculcation of policy, to say where does policy stand on some of the issues that we address. Maybe it's something that we need to look at. And then the issue of skills levy. Skills levy only becomes relevant only when you are employed full-time in public service. But in most cases, when we deal with issues related to young people, we find that as long as they are outside the employ, it becomes difficult to say they can access such levies. And then there was something that had to do with the TVET colleges and what they offer to the job market. I think there's a serious need for engagements and consultations when we talk about how do TVET colleges deal with issues related to the market, because whatever they produce should be beneficial to the markets. And the other one is that maybe there's also a need to demystify technical education. Because the moment you talk to a South African child about going to a TVET college, it's like you are demoting them to another level. Our children don't understand the value of technical education. So it's one of the things that really needs attention. And then, colleagues, considering the context of South Africa